Okay, everyone, welcome back. Your last lecture. Aren't you excited? There's no motivation here, is there? Okay, I saved the best for last because it's one that we experience all the time, and that's stress. And it was appropriate night to do it because you had paper due and you have a final coming up next week, and you have uh, the activity folder and just everything coming together at the same time. A lot of people do experience stress at this time, so it's a perfect time to do this lecture. So let's get started. So when we talk about stress, technically it's anything that our body reacts to, that we have some sort of psychological or physical response to something, some stimulus that messes with our body's state of equilibrium. In other words, we just talked about before that sense of equilibrium that our body likes to be in balance. And when it's out of balance, we feel stress. Now, the thing that causes stress is known as a stressor. And there are two types. So you, again, want to know the difference between the two. So if I gave you a scenario, you could tell me if it's an acute stressor or a chronic stressor. So an acute stressor is something that is short-lived. So it's going to cause stress for a short period of time, but eventually the stress will be gone. So you're driving to school and you're stopped at a light and somebody rear ends your car. You get out, there's a little bit of damage, but nobody's hurt. So you're under a little bit of stress, but eventually you drive off. You've got their insurance. The insurance is going to pay for everything. It's going to make your vehicle look better than it did before. And then the stress is gone. That's an acute stressor versus finding out you have fourth stage lung cancer. That's not going away. That stress is going to be with you. Okay. Loved one dies. That's not going away. That's a chronic stressor. Okay. So acute stressor, short lived, chronic stressor, it's going to be with you for a long time. How we respond to stress is the stress response. And you learned that back in the second lecture. Again, something very familiar. Now, if we would have been in a classroom, I would have started class with showing you this picture. And I would have said to you, imagine you're walking through the woods, taking a nice hike, enjoying the weather, and you turn a corner and you see that face that's in front of you. After you've soiled yourself, you need to make a decision, fight or flight, right? That's the stress response. We learned that stress response all the way back in lecture 2. Do you stay and fight the bear, or do you try to get the heck out of there? And unless you're the bear whisperer, you're probably going to try to get out of there or use a technique of trying to make a lot of noise and hope it scares the bear instead of the bear eating you. Okay? This would be, you know, a stressor for anybody, right? It doesn't matter if you're young or old or if you live in Pennsylvania or if you live in California. This would be a stressor if you saw that face no matter what. So your body would go automatically into that stress response. So when we talk about stress, that fight or flight response, it's in three phases. And we didn't talk about the three phases when we did it in lecture two. We just talked about fight or flight and how it was part of, and the autonomic nervous system. Okay. So the first phase is the alarm phase. That's where the blood pressure goes up, the heart rate goes up, your temperature goes up, respiration goes up, etc. Then we have, after a period of time, what we call the resistance phase. That means your body may make adaptation to the stress levels. So it actually will keep those stress levels kind of balanced out. Your body is still under stress, but it's dealing with the stress. So you're not necessarily feeling that stress every single moment of every day. And then we have what's called the exhaustion phase. More colloquial term would be um, burnout. If you've ever heard or know anyone who's experienced burnout, it's when you just don't want to do anything. You plop yourself down in a chair and it's like you don't care. You just don't care anymore. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to deal with anything. You don't want to do anything that you used to do for fun. You don't want to be with people that you enjoyed being with. It could be family, it could be friends. You just shut down physically, emotionally, mentally. You just shut down. Now, the goal of stress management, which is part of this lecture, is to help you stop it from getting to this third phase. We can't prevent stress, but we can deal with stress in a way that can make an adaptation by the body so it doesn't affect us as harmfully as it could. But it's still affecting you, but we can kind of hold it off a little by using different techniques. So let's talk about first what causes stress. Well, first, it's a cognitive issue. One, you recognizing something stressful. So you get a new job and they tell you it's going to be 60 hours a week instead of 40 hours, but you're going to be making a heck of a lot more money. So you weigh that out and that's going to be stressful because that's, another 20 hours. But that extra 20 hours of cash is going to help with a lot of other things. So that means on your first look, something's going to be stressful. When you read my syllabus, you knew from the first moment what was due, when it was due, that there was a 5-page paper. You knew right from the beginning. And for some of you, that could have caused stress. And for other people, no. Secondary appraisal is when you look at something and don't think it's going to cause stress. And then later down the road, you find out, hey, this is kind of stressful. So let's go back to that job. You take this job and hey, it's extra hours, no problem. But you also find out, maybe a month into the job, that it means you're in charge of like 8 different offices and you're responsible for visiting those offices at least once a week. And you're responsible for getting replacements if somebody calls off and trying to get people to work a shift that wasn't their shift before. And if you can't get someone to work it, you have to work it for them. That's secondary appraisal. You thought you could handle the first amount of stress, but all of a sudden, into this situation, there's more stress that you didn't realize was going to be there. How we deal with the stress is called coping. And there are positive and negative coping strategies. And we're going to talk about the two types of strategies that are positive and negative. First, believing that you're in control is a very powerful way to reduce stress. If not, we just learned about this. You see how all these lectures are now tying together? That's why I put them all together. If we don't feel we're under control, we can develop learned helplessness, which means we get stuck in that niche of being stressed out and we don't think there's anything we can do about it. Perceived control. You think you have the ability to do something about it, even if you don't have the ability. Just thinking that you have the ability to do something about it can reduce your stress. Example, again, hope you never hear this, but the doctor says you have, fourth stage cancer, you have 3 months to live. You don't believe it, so you go to another doctor, you get a second opinion, they tell you the exact same thing. There's nothing you can do. Go home, spend some time with your family, get your things in order. What do you do with that, right? I mean, really think about that. What do you do with that? You've just been told you're going to die in 3 months, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You can develop learned helplessness. You may not want to get off the couch. You don't want to have anything to do with friends. I might as well just end it, right? Versus if you go to the doctor, they say you have fourth stage cancer, and they say, well, there's a new program that's starting over at AGH or UPMC, and they're taking new study people, and you fit the qualifications. So you would start tomorrow, and they have this new experimental drug, and they've had some positive outcomes from the first round of tests. And they've found that many of the people that took this experimental drug have lived double the length of time that they were given as life expectancy. So if you were told 3 months, they were living over 6 months. And then there may be something else that comes along that you can do. You have a sense of control over the cancer. There's something you can do. Now, you may choose not to do this, and that in itself is a sense of control. Perceived control can help you reduce stress. And is it predictable? Again, if you can predict stress, so maybe you don't like writing papers, but the first moment you saw my syllabus, you saw that 1/60 your grade is a paper. For some of you, you knew that would be stressful. So maybe you started the paper early. So you didn't put yourself in tune with, oh, I'm gonna wait to the very last second and type it 1 hour before it's due. That would cause issues if you are stressed out over writing papers. But just predicting that something may come along that's going to cause you stress can help reduce stress, because you can do some mitigating factors to reduce your stress that we will talk about as part of this lecture. If you have like any internal conflict, let's say you're doing one thing and saying one thing, but something else is going on. If you have to lie to a family member or a loved one, that can cause internal conflict. Life's hassles, traffic. You're typing your paper and you ran out of ink, and you were actually physically typing a paper, and it's too late, and Walmart doesn't cover what you need. So life's hassle. Your kids are screaming. Mine is always, my one is trying to keep my dog quiet for 5.5 hours during a Zoom class. He's a dog, and normally he's very good, But sometimes my neighbor take their dogs out and they stand right in front of my house, and then my dog freaks out, and then I'm stressed because I think it might be bothering you. So life's hassles. Any daily hassles, you need milk and you go in the refrigerator and the milk carton's empty. Any type of interruptions that you may have, you're trying to do something and somebody interrupts you, and now you're put further behind. We also know that stress can affect your immune system because we studied already cortisol. Remember, it's the stress hormone that's released anytime you go through the stress response. So, you know, when we talk about trying to heal yourself from cancer, but now you're under stress, you are suppressing your immune system. You don't want to be under stress. You want to keep these cancer patients or people that are having health issues, you want to keep them as stress free as possible. You're not going to be able to wipe it out, but at least if you can reduce it or mitigate that, that's very helpful. And again, perception of control. If you feel you have control, that can reduce stress. Same thing for heart disease. Stress causes high blood pressure. High blood pressure can cause heart problems. You want to reduce the stress. There's a high correlation of depression and heart disease. So, not only are you increasing your risk when it comes to, having another heart attack, you may be depressed because now you can't do certain things that you used to do before. Anxiety and heart disease, very high when you're anxious, and you have heart disease. That stress from the anxiety causes your heart to work harder, So all of these things are connected. So you want to keep your stress levels low. So now you may say, well, why the heck are you talking about sleep? Because lack of sleep can cause the stress response in people. So before we go through the rest of this slide, just somewhere, either jot it down right next to you or just get a number in your mind. I want you to think about how many hours of sleep on average do you get a night? Actual sleep, not just laying in bed watching TV. So get a number because that will help you to understand this next section. So, do we have a number?
Yes.
Okay.
6 maybe.
Okay, don't tell us yet. I want you to just keep that number because you're going to see where you fall on this scale. So when we fall asleep, first we go through what's called the first stage, and it's kind of like being hypnotized. It's just an extreme state of relaxation. That's how hypnosis is also. It's just an extreme state of relaxation. You can wake up very easily from this. So you're laying there and there's a noise and you would wake up. Okay. At stage two, it starts to get a little deeper of sleep. The waves change a little more. We have higher wave function here. At stage 3 and 4, we're starting to see delta waves. Again, you can see them further apart. And it's at this point when we get into like stage 4 that we move into what's called REM sleep, rapid eye movement. And it's called rapid eye movement because if you actually watch someone who's in REM sleep, you will see their eyes darting back and forth. You can see it under the eyelids. Animals do this too. So you'll see it in dogs and cats. You can actually see their eyes move. I had a friend who slept with their eyes open all the time, literally slept with their eyes open. So when she was in REM sleep, she was my roommate in college, you would actually see her eyes move. It was really freaky, let me tell you. Um, but that's when we dream. We dream during REM sleep. And there's a lot of things that go on during REM sleep. And I think somebody's doing their presentation on sleep. So I don't want to go too much into it, so steal their topic. But um, now you have your number of sleep. Now I want you to look at this chart. Here's an average night that's like 7 hours. We go through those first couple parts fairly quickly. In other words, anything beyond a half hour, you are actually already into stage 4. So if you're going to take a nap, you want the nap to be less than a half hour or more than 2.5 hours. Because if you don't, you're going to break right in the middle of a sleep cycle. And what happens if you wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle, you tend to be very, very groggy and very slow moving and feel less relaxed or refreshed than you would if you didn't take a nap at all. But if you make it through that 2.5 hours, you've already had what we call one REM cycle. These are REM cycles. Notice they get longer as the night goes on. It's during this time that our brain is very active and it's doing a lot of different things. It's processing information, it's repairing the body, and it's also when we're dreaming. So 98, I think it is, 90% of our dreams occur in REM sleep. Don't quote me on the number because it might even be 99. Almost all dreaming takes place in REM sleep. And if you're sleeping, say 5 hours, you're only getting 3 REM cycles. If you're sleeping 3 hours a night, you're getting one REM cycle. One. That's it. If you're sleeping 7 or more, you may get 5 or 6 REM cycles. The other thing that occurs if you go for a long period, say 4 or 5 days, without getting enough REM sleep, your body will force you into REM sleep. So you have what's called REM rebound. Because there's some people that will say, well, I'll only sleep 5 hours these nights, but on the weekend, hey, I can sleep 12 hours. Well, yeah, you'll get some extra REM sleep, but it doesn't make up for the REM sleep you lost. And the damage done by the loss of the REM sleep isn't made up on that one Saturday that you slept a little more. But when you go through REM rebound, if you've ever done this, you tend to have very, very bizarre dreams. I mean, really, really crazy dreams. You know, they could be nightmares or they could just be strange. Like you'll be talking with your mom and there's an elephant tusk coming out of her head. I mean, just bizarre dreams. Very common if you've fallen into REM rebound. So if you're not getting, depending on what number you wrote down, look at that. It's really important. You need that REM sleep. Sleep deprivation is actually a means of torture. Did you know that? If you go 36 hours without sleeping, you can start to hallucinate, visual and auditory hallucinations. It really is used as a means of torture. For people who have chronic insomnia, their mood changes, their whole personality can change because the body isn't getting rest, and it's part of that rest time that they are regenerating their body. Attention is affected. You can only pay attention for so long. Come on. Have you ever been in a class that you're so tired, you were up late doing something, and then you got to sit in that class and you're trying to think of way, oh my gosh, how can I keep myself awake? You're like downing Diet Pepsi, just trying to get the caffeine to stay awake, which then if you take too much could cause you not to sleep the night, you know, after that. Visual performance, visual motor skills, there's delay. There actually is research done. Do you know if you are sleeping less than 6 hours a night for 3 or more nights, you actually have the reaction time of someone who has had 2 alcoholic beverages? Sleep deprivation is one of the uh, problems we have here in the United States. It's a big problem. And you can test for someone who's drunk when they're driving. You can't test somebody who's sleep deprived, but we're saying their reaction time is similar to someone who's had 2 drinks. So, and the longer between the time they've had sleep and the time they get sleep the next time, the worse their reaction time can get. There are people who actually will fall asleep at the wheel. Your mood suffers, your body suffers because of the increase in cortisol. Cortisol changes how your body regulates insulin and stores fat. And it's very difficult to learn when you're tired, when you're sleep deprived. And that's why I always tell people, if you're studying at night and you are tired and you reread something over and over and over again and it's just not going in, go to bed. Just go to bed because it's not going to go in. You'd be better off going and getting one REM cycle, sleep like for 3 hours, get up and study, because at least you would get that one REM cycle in. Your body would be slightly more rested than it was before. Okay. And then there's dreaming. Why do we dream? There are a whole bunch of theories. And again, some people have this as their presentation. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail about it. So Freud says wish fulfillment, that's pretty common sense, right? Oh, I'd like to win the lottery. So you might dream about the lottery. Manifest content. Hey, I'd like to learn how to surf. Maybe you really would like to learn how to surf and you dream yourself learning how to surf. Okay, manifest, it's what you see. Latent content. You dream about something, it means something else. So you dream about you climbing up the side of a mountain and you're climbing, and everyone else is taking the road and they're making it all the way to the top. But you get all the way to the top as you're climbing and you slide down. The rocks give up, and then you end up all the way at the bottom again. That dream's not about you climbing a mountain. That dream is you're trying to reach a goal and you seem to not be able to get to that goal. Something happens that you have to start again. That's what we mean by latent content. Activation synthesis hypothesis, it talks about dreams being a way to synthesize information and activate information that we learned during the day. Some theories are it strengthens all our neural connections, that whole neural net that we studied in the second lecture. We dream about goals, and yes, arousal. Sexual dreams are natural and normal. Um, that you may have a dream that you're aroused from. Now, when we talk about sleep in the brain, some people, like I said, can't sleep, so they need to take sleeping pills. One of the more common ones we see now is Ambien. It's a wonderful drug. It works very, very well. But if you're going to take Ambien, you need to make sure you're going to get at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep because Ambien stays in your system, depending on the person, 8 to 9 hours. Why is that important? Because if you take it and say you only get 5 hours of sleep, and then you get in your car to go to drive to work, it can actually cause you to fall asleep while driving. And you could get killed and you could kill other people. So it's really important. Excuse me. It's really important that if you are going to take that medicine, that you only take it if you know you're going to have time to sleep. Melatonin is a natural substance that is, yeah, the voice is going. A natural substance that is produced by the body and it increases as the day goes on. It's what helps us to sleep. You can buy melatonin at Rite Aid, at Shop and Save, at Giant Eagle. It's very common over the counter and it can help you sleep and it's natural. So it's one of the first things that many people will try before they go toward those hard pharmaceuticals. And then we each have circadian rhythms. We have a rhythm to our body. We have to learn that rhythm. And we kind of do. We know when we start to feel tired. Most people begin to feel tired around 2:15 till about 4:30. It's kind of a natural dip in most people's circadian rhythms. If we removed all the light from the planet, our body actually runs on a 24.9-hour day. But our bodies have adapted to 24. So our bodies are constantly adapting and changing to different stressors, including just our own body. And then there's shift work. And I don't know if any of you do night shift. I don't want to scare you, but I'm going to. Uh, if you work shift work, especially night turn, like the 11 to 7, you get that extra $1 an hour. There are so many research studies on shift work. People who work that graveyard shift, there's a greater chance that they are going to have marital problems, depression, anxiety, commit suicide, have just relationship issues with everyone, including their family and loved ones. It's kind of scary when you think it's all because they work a different shift. But remember, your body's on a different cycle. So you're going against the normal cycle. Excuse me. I'm going to just pause this for a second. Okay. So trouble sleeping, night terrors, nightmares. What's the difference? A nightmare, you wake up screaming, but you remember you were screaming because there was a clown attacking you. You'd be surprised how many people are afraid of clowns, and not only children. That's a nightmare. So you think about what it was, you think about how it was irrational. Maybe, somebody sits with you, they give you a glass of milk or water, and you go back to bed and everything's fine. Put a little nightlight on, kid's okay. Nightmares tend to go away as we get older. Very few adults continue to get a lot of nightmares. You may get one here and there, especially if something's going on in your life. You may get one. Night terrors are the scary ones. Night terrors, you wake up screaming, but you don't remember what the dream was, which means you can't deal with what happened. And people who have night terrors can have night terrors all the way into old age. And it can be really detrimental because people don't want to go to sleep because they're scared to death that they're going to have a night terror. And, it's a real problem because it can cause literally a phobia to sleep. Narcolepsy. Narcolepsy are people who can fall asleep anywhere. I mean, they can drive a car, they can be riding down an escalator, and on the top, they'll be perfectly fine, but by the bottom of the escalator, they've fallen asleep. So if somebody's not with them, they may fall and hurt themselves. Insomnia, not being able to sleep or not being able to stay asleep. There are different techniques that can be used. The first one is retraining your brain what the bed means. So the first thing you would do is one, don't do anything in bed except sleep. So no eating, no watching TV, no reading, no playing on your computer, and even to start, no sex. Have it somewhere else, but not in the bed. Later on, you can have that back added to it, but you got to get your body used to retraining itself to think bed means sleep. If you go to bed and you're laying there for 15 or more minutes and you're not falling asleep, get up. Just laying there is not going to make you fall asleep. It just causes more anxiety and more stress. Just get up. You can watch TV, you can just go, you can just relax, do some breathing exercises, read something. Don't read anything scary or horrible or, you know, something, that will help you to relax a little and then try again. Okay. The old conning sheep doesn't really work. You can focus. You can buy music that's like white noise, like tree branches and ocean waves and things like that. And that can help some people to fall asleep because it relaxes you. So it puts you in that first stage of sleep. Sleep apnea. I'm going to try my best to do this with my voice right now. We'll see how good it goes. Someone with sleep apnea, that means that they literally stop breathing during the night. Some people have been recorded to stop breathing up to 400 times. Okay. That means they're sleeping and all of a sudden they're they just stop breathing and you can hear it. You can hear like they stop and then all of a sudden there's like a gasp for air. That's because the brain recognizes, oh my gosh, I stopped breathing, and actually wakes you up enough to breathe. People who have sleep apnea, this is, a life problem. Um, there are things that can be done to help it, uh, but this is what we call the sleep apnea snore. So I'm going to try my best to do this without killing my voice. So
Can I just say something?
that's that's the sound. And yes, you could say something in a second. I just wanted to get that out. That's the sound. They actually stop breathing, and you can hear when they take the gasp. And then if you're sleeping with someone, you can hear that. But if you're by yourself, you may not even know you have sleep apnea to even get tested. Okay, now you can say something. I just wanted to get that out first.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were trying to do that. With sleep apnea, both my parents have that, and
Do
it,
they have a CPAP?
yep, and it's more frightening with my dad because he has more health issues because he has a regular heartbeat.
Yeah.
So when it's a deep sleep, it's like kind of have to be like a baby monitor passing his room.
Yeah, the CPAP machine um, can save lives because it leaves the mouth open so air comes in. It's like forced air going in. So it's almost like forcing them to breathe. And, they'll be using that probably the rest of their lives. Um, there's, you get used to the sound eventually. You kind of sound like Darth Vader, the so the partner may take a long time. It's going to disrupt their sleep unless they also use a sleep seat.
Wow.
Was that a question? I guess not. Okay. So when we talk about sleep apnea, it's important that you recognize it. So if you're getting what you think, say 7 or more hours of sleep, and you're still constantly feeling tired, you may want to ask your doctor for a sleep study. And what they do is they literally wire you up, electrodes. They put a breathing device in, they do your pulse. You're actually on camera. You actually sleep on camera, and someone monitors your sleep, and you have to sleep for a minimum of 4 hours. So if you tend to wake easily, they usually ask your doctor to prescribe a sleeping pill so they can get to sleep. And they check for things like restless leg syndrome that might be waking you up, but they also check to see if you are stopping your breathing because you're not getting enough sleep because your brain is constantly waking you up. So sleep apnea is a very dangerous thing. Some of the things they can do other than a CPAP, um, they can do surgery if there's an issue, if you have a very small opening in your mouth, or if you still have your tonsils and adenoids, they'll remove those. If you're overweight, they'll suggest that you lose weight because that extra weight on your body can cause problems with breathing, that you should not sleep on your stomach or on your back. If you're overweight, you should sleep on your side. It takes the pressure off your chest. So there are a lot of other things that can be used. There's a dental device now that can keep your mouth open to get the air in and out without using a sleep, the machine. So there are some treatments that way, but no medications that I know of. That I
Hey,
know of.
Russ,
Yes.
hey, getting going back to the circadian thing that you were talking about.
Yep.
Sorry to backtrack, but is it true though? Because like I do shift, like I'm like I work all that stuff, so I have difficulties beyond explanation. I mean, it's hard. I'm a daylight person, and it's like in my job though, I have to be able to do some certain things at nighttime where you guys will be sleeping
Yep.
normal. Like it's just hard. But is it true though that because I'm in a union and we get like an extra $1.75, I think maybe maybe not as much to work that shift or to have those shifts, they compensate us more
Yes.
because our life expectancy is 25% less.
I don't know. I don't know if it's 25%, but there is a higher degree of health problems that can lead to death. So more heart disease, more high blood pressure, more stress related injuries, more anxiety, more like I said, marital problems, emotional problems, like I said,
Mm,
comorbidity on psychological disorders,
right.
because you're, and it can be just as bad, not only if you're on that shift, but people that rotate shifts. So if one week you're on, the 7 to 3, and then next week you're on you might have to double
3 to
that
11,
and do a 7 to 3 and a 3 to 11, etc. We
right.
see people that have that particular type of shift also having issues,
Hmm.
because it's every week, it's like having jet lag. Your
Yeah, my
body
daughter
is
suffered.
taking a day, like, to just get reacclimated to it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's 25%, but it is a percentage. And that's why many of the uh, unions fought for, that extra amount of money for,
Yeah,
that,
because we're not going to be able
especially
to
the
live
regular.
long to enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for your sake that's not that high.
I got 15 more years and I'm done. Wherever I'm at, I'm done.
So, coping strategies. So, how do we get rid of stress? So, there are a couple different types. There's problem focused and emotion focused. We see more men using problem focused. Again, correlational research. We see more women using emotion focused, but both groups can use both types. Active coping, pretty straightforward. You have a flat tire, you change the tire, you no longer have any stress, right? Pretty straightforward. Uh, Problem focused strategy is planning. So if you know if something's going to be stressful, you plan it out, and that will give you less stress because you've dealt with the issues that could cause you stress. Instrumental social support. Okay, you have a flat tire. You don't know how to change a flat tire, but your neighbor does. So you call your neighbor and ask them to come and change your tire, and they do. So you've dealt with the problem. So active coping, planning, and instrumental social support. That means someone helped you solve that problem. Versus emotion focused strategies. Emotional social support. You have a flat tire. You have to wait for AAA, but you're like in the middle of the West End Bridge, and you're just stressed out because people are shooting you the finger and calling you names, and so you call your friend. Hi, can you talk to me? Because I'm just, oh, I'm just so upset. And somebody talks to you on the phone. That's emotional social support. They're not changing your tire for you, but they're reducing the stress because you're talking to someone. Venting. This is a biggie. People like to vent. For my guys in the class, I'm going to give you some advice. Women like to vent. Unless they asked for you to solve their problem, just listen. More fights have been caused in relationship because women want to vent, and their husband, their boyfriend, their lover, they want to tell them what to do. They just want to talk about it. Venting is very common for men and women. Women may vent something over and over and over. If somebody will say it like 16 times, and you just want to say, you've told me this before. You've already said this. You just do something about it. And then they get upset because you react that way. Every time they tell the story or they say the situation, it helps them to process it in their brain, and then they solve it on their own. If they want your advice on how to solve the problem, they will ask. I've just saved many of you marriage counseling for, a long time. Seriously. This is one issue that people don't understand. Sometimes just talking about it, that's what people do when they go to a counselor. They just vent. They talk about it without any repercussion. They can just get it off their chest. I tell people all the time, if you're stressed out, talk to a mirror about what's stressing you out, or write a letter and then rip it up into many pieces and throw it away or burn it. Just getting it out is part of the process of relieving the stress.
Can you talk to your dog and not like feel weird about it?
Yep. Oh, I talk to my dog all the time. I get the rolled eyes every now and then, but yeah, I talk to my dog. Yeah, he's heard many a thing, many a thing that he'll keep his little secrets about.
Exactly.
But I have to listen to him too. So positive
Right.
reinterpretation. So you get a pink slip. They're letting you go because they just don't have the work. So you're going to be laid off. But you're upset that you got the pink slip, but you really didn't like that job anyways, and you had meant to start looking for another job, but you didn't have the time. So you reinterpret what you had happen to you. Okay, well, this is a good opportunity now for me to look for a job. It's the silver lining type method. Where's there good in this? Reinterpret it. Behavioral disengagement. Did you ever count to 10 and walk away? Or just, I got to get out of here. I can't handle this anymore. And you literally get out of the situation. That can reduce your stress. Mental disengagement. Say you're stressed out, and a lot of people in Pittsburgh have seasonal affective disorder. So they get stressed out in the winter and, it's snowing. You have a computer, you have a phone with a smartphone device. Pull up pictures of Hawaii, pull up pictures of the Caribbean blue waters. Just mentally disengage with whatever is causing you stress. Other coping strategies, some people will say, oh, thought suppression, don't think about it. I'm not going to think about this bill. Well, think about this now. For the next 30 seconds, do you hear me? The next 30 seconds, I do not want you thinking about an elephant. That's right. You can't think about an elephant. No thinking about elephants. Are you thinking about an elephant? Of course you are. It's called the rebound effect there. And it's not going to help. It's going to cause more stress. So if you're laying there in bed thinking, I have to pay my water bill, I have to pay my water bill. Oh my gosh, I have to pay my water bill. How am I going to pay my water bill? I have to pay this bill, but I still have to pay my water bill or they're going to shut off my water. Every time you say that, you're causing yourself more effect. It's worse. It's a rebound effect. Humor is an awesome stress reliever. Awesome. You are stressed out from work, you're stressed out from school, you're stressed out from your family, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the reason you're stressed out. You had a really bad day. Don't go home and watch Titanic. They die. Okay? Don't, don't watch Saving Private Ryan. They die. Don't do that. Don't watch things that are going to be depressing. Go home and watch a comedy. If you have Netflix, oh my gosh, they have all these, comedians. If you have, Facebook, dry bar comedy, little comedy clips, some of them 5, 10, 15 minutes. Humor actually does improve your resistance to stress. Laughing. They even have laughing clubs. I'm not kidding. People get together once a month to laugh. I mean, big, hearty belly laughs. It releases endorphins. It makes you feel good. It relaxes you and reduces your stress. Humor is really a great medicine. Don't hesitate to read the funnies. Don't hesitate to read a joke. Humor is really good because it reduces the effects, the detrimental effects on our stress, our stress response. Aggression is not a good coping strategy. It's just not. It can cause environmental problems, it can cause depression, it can cause pain, especially if you have what we call a negative attribution bias or a hostile attribution bias. Remember, we talked attribution when we did social psychology. It's why we blame something, something caused something. If you already have a hostile attribute, you think all women are bad drivers, and you're at a light and somebody doesn't go immediately through the light, and you're getting upset and you start honking the horn and you're causing yourself stress. I think the worst case of it I saw rage was it was in White Oak, and this person didn't go. It was a very short light. They didn't go right away, so everyone got stuck at the light a little longer. And I was like the third car back, and this guy took a baseball bat out of his car and went up and started beating on the car of that was in front that didn't go through the light. So, you know, there's a problem there. That's not solving anything. That aggression is not solving your stress. It's going to cause more stress, especially because a police officer saw it and I'm sure they were arrested.
So I have a question. Maybe playing boxing would reduce stress.
Hmm. Yes, boxing would, because you're releasing endorphins. Endorphins make you feel better and can relax you. So yes, yeah, boxing would be something. Any type of running. Some people go to the gym to work out. Yeah, those would be positive things. But when you're hitting the punching bag, you're not really hitting a real person. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Some people, and we're not talking prize fighters, they're doing that for a living. But somebody's walking down your driveway, who's not supposed to be in your you running down and punching him in the face and beating them to a pulp is not going to solve your stress. That's just not going to do it. But going to the gym and working out and using a punching bag, sure, that can be. Don't punch a wall. I've had students do that and break a hand, and I'll say, did it do you any good? No. Did you feel better after? No, I had to go to the hospital because I broke my hand. Well, then I guess it was stupid for you to punch a wall. What about punching a pillow? You can get a good punch into a pillow, or buy one of those Bobo dolls. It's like, don't do something that's going to cause more stress or another injury. But yes, you're right, perfectly right. Boxing, working out like that would definitely relieve. But that's not aggression. That's a physical sport per se. Again, don't worry, guys. I'll come back with one for the ladies. We tend to see more men that use aggression as a stress relief than women. But when women use it, they can be very nasty with it. I don't know if you've ever seen women fight. Women can be pretty rough. So there are some differences when it comes for using aggression. Self-esteem, if you have lower self-esteem, you tend to use more aggression, hence bullying. Most bullies are actually people that have very low self-esteem. That's why they pick on someone that's less able to fight, so they feel good about themselves because they beat them. If that person who's being bullied stands up for themselves, a lot of times the bully will back down. And narcissism, sorry, ladies, this is ours. Women tend to use narcissism as a way to control stress. That's that they think themselves as the center of everything and everything revolves around them and they want to be in control of everything, including the men and women in their life. So we both have our own issues, whether we're male or female. Drugs and alcohol, again, bad choice for coping strategies, can lead to substance abuse. The more you use something, you can develop a tolerance. It can put you in dangerous situations. It can give you legal difficulties. And, if you do get addicted, there's usually a withdrawal period that's pretty nasty. So just don't use drug and alcohol as a coping mechanism. Social support. We see higher survival rate with people that have social support, people that have their back. It can help them to reduce depression. It can help keep their immune system up and not reduced. And this is really key here. Perceived social support is just as positive to enacted social support. And what I mean by that, so if somebody says to you, I have your back, if you need anything, just call me, and you call them and they actually come and help you, versus somebody says, if you need anything, just call me. And you're like, okay. So one time you call them, but they're not home. Oh, well, they're just not home, but I know they're there for me if I need them. Just believing that somebody has your back is enough to reduce the stress. Amazing, isn't it? Now, here's the list. These are the most common things that people do for stress relief. Okay. They're all beneficial and they're all positive. Okay. Now, there are other ones, but these are the biggies. Hypnosis. So if you're stressed out, you can actually be hypnotized, or you can help yourself to get into that relaxed state, that first stage of sleep, by using breathing methods, just to reduce your breathing, and focusing on something. Meditation, meditation has been around for thousands of years. Um, there's formal meditation, or you could just stare at a tree, or just close your eyes and enjoy the wind on your face and your hands, or you can focus on a word, like sun, sun. Okay, something like that. Yoga has made a huge comeback. It was real big in the 60s and the 70s, and then it went away, and it made a huge, huge comeback in 2000 and on. I mean, they have yoga classes with goats. They have yoga classes for your whole family. Many professional football and high school and college teams will have yoga time where they do yoga. It can cause, that decrease in stress, and relaxation, but it also can make you more flexible, gives you time to process everything. Biofeedback isn't used very much. It is still used, but because it typically it has to be done with a physician or a counselor. Most people don't use it because it takes a while. You have to monitor your biorhythms, and then you find out where the stress is really occurring in the day, and then you deal with that. Visual imagery. If we were in a classroom, I would do that. Since we're online, I don't want you to fall asleep if I do it, but it would be something like I would have you close your eyes and I would do what's called a meditative walk. So I'd have you close your eyes and imagine it's a nice summer day, and you're walking to the beach and you have to walk down 3 steps. So you step down the first step, then the second, then the third, and then you take off your shoes and then you feel the sand on your feet and going between your toes, etc. And I would walk you through this experience. It would be about 10 minutes long, but you would feel like you had a half hour sleep when I got done with it. It's very relaxing. You can buy tapes like this, like on iTunes. You can buy scripts and you can actually record yourself saying this. Uh, so you can just go through, or you can even just read it and just go through it in your mind. And a lot of people use visual imagery. Uh, Cognitive therapy is talk therapy, venting. So venting works. Take a stress management class. CCAC has a 1 credit stress manager class. It's 2 Saturdays, 1 credit. Easiest 1 credit you will ever earn ever. Plus, it would be helpful to you because they go through these techniques more and more because I know I've taught it a number of times. Prayer. Every religious tradition has a form of prayer, and many of them it's very meditative and reflective or rote. So you can just uh, center yourself and calm yourself down. And then Tai Chi, where you focus on the different muscle groups and you move very slowly because you're controlling your body and relaxing and focusing. And it can reduce heart rate, it can reduce stress, it can reduce pain. So these are just some of the most common ones. The research shows that all of these mind body interventions have improved mood and have improved the immune response. So it prevents the destruction of those T cells that are, the things that fight off germs in your body. It increases your lung function. It can improve or control pain that you may be experiencing. It can decrease your stress or any type of distress that you may be under. People tend to have fewer heart problems if you do these different activities. And again, big star here, placebo effect. If you believe any of these things that I just said work, if you truly believe it, even if it didn't work, it will work because your brain thinks it's going to work and it will have the same positive effect on your body, even if it didn't. And you can substitute anything. Petting your dog. Petting your dog reduces your blood pressure up to 15 points. Just petting your dog or your cat. And if you do that every day and you believe that it does, it will. That's how our mind and our body work together. So it's very, very normal. It's very natural. And let me just stop the recording here.